you have more
Yep.
things to say before we move on?
Doubling to, there's two people tonight, of course. I'd like to introduce two members of council. Now, on your left here is Patricia Woodbury, Dr. Patricia Woodbury. She's been on council now. This is her third term for the Central District. And next is Herbert Bateman Jr., or Bert Bateman. And I'm not sure how long he's been on it, but he's been on a long time. Okay. So we're glad for both of them to be here tonight. We also have Dr. Bateman. He's going to be asking the questions. Now, we've already collected some questions through email. We've collected some tonight by cards. So if anybody still wants to fill out a card, there at the back table there. I think we can get started now. Dr. Van Tine, you can introduce. You can start it.
All right. Once again, thank everybody. You're okay? Once again, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to our two city councilors. We really appreciate their time and energy and all the work they do for the people of Newport News. Very important work. The way we thought we'd do this is I'll ask one of the questions that have been submitted, and you guys can take turns coming up, and we can hand you the mic, or you can stand up either way when it's time to answer. So you can just remove the mic from there if you don't want to stand.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, it's on. It's just not very loud. Can you hear me now? Okay. So we'll just take turns. So the first question addressed to both of you. Why not just put control of the old city farm, which is zoned park, under the Parks and Rec Department? Why not just do this immediately? Who wants to go first?
Can you prefer standing or we just sort of sit? Okay.
The question, why not just give it to Parks and Rec, is that what you?
Yes.
First thing I would say is that before I answer the question, I think I should give you a little background about where I kind of come from on this property. I think that one of the things that I do with my kids when I would go out on my boat in James River would be I would put my hands over their eyes, and I would hold them up there, and I would say, when I take my hands away from your eyes, I want you to look down this river, and I want you to look to your left on the Isle of Wight side, because there's not as much development. And I would take my hands away, and I said, that's what Captain John Smith saw when he came down this river. You see those trees, you see that beautiful river. Well, you fast forward, I take them to the point where City Farm was, and that vista from that property there, you can think back before 1607, and you can think somebody else is probably standing there, and it wasn't an English colonist, it was probably a coastal Indian, and that vista was there thousands of years ago, and it was beautiful. And I always wanted to be there for the public to see, for people in Newport News to see. So that means a lot to me, preserving that.
Councilor Bateman, just go ahead and give your opening statement.
You said it.
And I'll get back.
That's my opening statement.
Yeah, just do that.
There's 7 members of council. I want to get the park opened as soon as we can, but I wanted to have the features that you all would want to see. I want it to be first class. I want it to be well thought out. I think the folks that have come before us, Joe Lemming, the people that were on that committee with him, they've given us a tremendous amount of work and the plans that they put together. And I have no quarrel with city farm becoming part of Riverview Park Farm and being managed by Parks and Rec. I've done it. I'd like to get there sooner rather than later, and I wanted to have the features that we all want to see. And I think it bears us giving consideration to all the dynamics of the property, and just keeping the property from eroding into the river will require us to bulkhead it so we can protect it, so we can have a promenade and we could view the river from up close. So there's planning that needs to go on, and I want to have a citizen committee be involved in all that. I want to involve you to be able to speak to all those issues. I don't pretend to have all that knowledge, and I sure know my colleagues don't know it all. I'm only one of 7, so no problem with the Parks and Rec managing the property at some point. I want to use it sooner rather than later. I want it to have the features that you all would want to have. I want it to be the best park in America. So that's not something you take lightly, you know. You want to do a great job, you want to be thorough about it. And there's still some more to learn. And I'm very open-minded about having the things that you all would want, so that's where I am. Thank you.
Councilor Bateman, before you sit down,
Yes.
it sounds to me like you're perhaps ready to make a statement that you want to keep that park and not let it be developed.
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of, you know, when you make a park, you have to develop the park into a park. So, well, there's a lot of misconstruing of what development means. I don't want.
Let's separate out commercial development versus.
No, I don't want commercial development. I would like to see this land have a feature where it produces some income. And so I see on the plan, and I think many of you have said that you wouldn't mind seeing a restaurant there or a seafood center there. Well, that's an interesting concept. We need to look at that, but that's not something you rush into. You want to make sure the dynamics are right. You don't want to be unfriendly to the watermen that are already there. In fact, you want to support them. You want to have their input. And they need to grow from this, and you're impacting their lives, and so that bears consideration. So for me, I don't want to see commercial development. I want to see public use. I want to see it a park, but I think it can have revenue production. And that doesn't mean turning it into some amusement park. I mean, keeping it, I like the idea of restaurants. I like the idea that Dr. Woodbury had about a maritime center where kids can learn how to sail. It's already going on there. We already got C&U leases part of that land from us for their sailing center. I would like to preserve that. But there's dynamics to making sure that continues to function well in concert with whatever else goes down there if there's other opportunities for kids to learn how to sail. There are people that complain on, you all take your boats out in the river, you don't have anywhere to go. Where do you go? You go to Captain Chuckamuck's, or you go to Smithfield, and you wind your way all the way to the seafood place, and it takes 20, you get across the river, you think you're there, you get 20 more minutes winding your way to Smithfield. There are people who would like to come to Deep Creek and have a soft shell crab, or Deep Creek is really like the epicenter of the oyster. Yeah. We can have the center for the American oyster there, but you impact people's lives with that, and you want to make sure you do it right. So I look at those things. I don't think I have all the answers. So we want to have a park with integrity. We want something we're all proud of, and I take the Riverview Farm Park oath. I don't want commercial development.
Okay.
I've said that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Woodbury, your opening statement, please.
You want me to use the?
Yes.
Can you hear? All right, okay. All right, here we go. I think I've made it very clear where I stand, both last week at the work session. This is beautiful parkland, and it is already under Parks and Recreation. That is where it falls in our budget. And it needs to stay there. And it needs to be... Dr. John Dawson came up with a City Farm letter to the editor, and with all of these things, that would be great. My granddaughter this summer taught paddleboarding, kayaking, whatever it was down in Hatteras. She and her friend went down and had a place there that they lived, and then they, through this center they had there was teaching all kinds of families and all kinds of tourists. But the most important thing is that we, the people, own this property. And we, the people, must say what goes there. Yes, I've talked about a first-rate, somebody told me the other day, a good restaurant there. It can be revenue producing. Also, one of the statistics here that you need to hear is the study for the Trust for Public Land, an economic analysis that said that for every public $1 invested in land conservation, $4 in natural goods and services is returned to the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's a pretty good investment, don't you think? And it's an investment in us as well. I like the fact that there is, if you all haven't gone online to read it, you really should, on the website, there is a paper, 30-some pages, called The Benefits of Parks, Why America Needs More City Parks and Open Space. This last fall, I went to Pittsburgh. They have 150 parks in the city of Pittsburgh. 5 of them are conservancy parks. One of them is right downtown. And one of them has 150 acres in it. I went and visited that, and the whole thing, the building where they teach classes for the children and for adults, all heated and air conditioned with water, with the sun, solar panels. Top of the notch parks, and the one downtown, right in the middle of downtown, had all these little luncheon restaurant and dinner restaurants from all different countries. Plus they had a space about the size of this place here, in the round, with curtains that people rented out for weddings, rented out for receptions, had public meetings there, again, revenue producing. We have the possibility of, say, an aquatic center there, that you could teach kids, young kids. One of these papers, go online and read this, but one of them said it's a lot easier to build these things than to send a kid to jail. And that's true. And yeah, I wanted to also, on this conclusion, we at the Trust for Public Land call for a revival of the city parks movement in the late 19th century, a visionary era that produced great public spaces like New York's Central Park, San Francisco's Golden Gate Park, and those of us lucky enough to live near parks, open spaces, and greenways knows the joy that bring the calming views of trees and green lawns, the singing of birds. Overwhelming as evidence demonstrates the benefits of city parks. They improve our physical and psychological health, strengthen our communities, and make our cities, neighborhoods more attractive and places that are attractive to live. I want to make one other statement. This is from our Parks and Rec director that had made this last week. I asked him to because I knew he had the statistics. The National Recreation and Park Association, as well as other organizations and publications such as the Virginia Outdoors Plan, have established standards and recommendations for how many acres of public parkland, district, community, and neighborhood parks should be available for each 10,000 residents in a community. Based on these standards, Newport News currently has a deficit of approximately 524 acres, which the current framework for the future estimates will grow to 814 acres of deficit by 2030, based on the projected population. We do not have enough parks, and we need to keep this as parkland. I mean, I can even envision maybe horses up there. The one time I went to Nassau, they had horses riding on the beach. I don't know, I might learn to ride a horse, who knows? But anyway, that's my position, and I will be sticking to it, so thank you.
Thank you.